Good morning, students, and welcome to Ag Econ, or maybe good afternoon or good evening, depending on what time it is where you're at. I want to start off by simply apologizing for missing the first day of class. This is the first time in my entire career I've ever missed the first day of class. And the explanation is quite simple. I've had a COVID exposure inside of my household, and according to the guidelines, I have to quarantine. So what I want to do in this video is get you started on the class material and make sure you know what you're supposed to be doing. So basically what I do for my class is I've created an online class several years ago, and I take all of the online content and I make it available for my students in my on-ground classes. And in the on-ground classes, I do this thing called one-pagers. And if you go into the content section of D2L, early in Module 1, you'll see a PowerPoint file that you can download and print off and bring to class with you. I used to hand those out, and then this coronavirus thing happened, and I stopped passing out and taking up papers, or I try to minimize that because that's a great way to transmit disease, is have someone sneeze on a piece of paper and then hand it to somebody else. So what we do in the classroom is we go over the one-pagers. That's what we do with the classroom time. The way I like to explain the one-pagers is the stuff on the one-pagers is the most important stuff or the most difficult stuff. And my philosophy is that if you know the important stuff and you know the difficult stuff, you should not only pass the class, but have a very good grade in the class. And that's actually been working out quite well. Once I started implementing this particular one-pager method, I noticed that students started doing better in general. It's a tool to help you focus on what matters. Now, the thing to remember is that if you just come to class and do the one-pagers, that's not a guarantee that you're going to get an A in the class. You will still need to do some other stuff like reading the book, watching the online videos. So the theory goes, you'll watch the online videos, come to class, we'll go over the one-pager, you go home, you do a homework assignment, watch the next set of online videos, come to class, do a one-pager. The videos aren't too bad. I try to keep them really, really short. I've learned that students don't watch 30-minute videos, but they might watch 10 3-minute videos. So none of my videos are longer than about 10 minutes. I want to use the rest of the time we have in this video here to talk about some frequently asked questions. And these are frequently asked questions that I like to bring up because I want to use them as an opportunity to teach about economics. And the first economics concept that I want to teach you about is the thing called opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative. And if you understand opportunity cost by the time you finish this class, you will actually know quite a bit about economics, because opportunity cost can be used to actually explain almost everything that happens in life. The theory goes that you as an individual will do your best to make the best choice. What do I mean by that? That means you're going to use your resources to the best of your ability. You'll use your business to make the most profit. You'll make choices that make you happy in your personal life when you consume goods. And so you'll make the best choice, and the second best choice is the actual cost of that choice. That's the opportunity cost. You give up all other options, opportunities, choices when you make one particular choice. Students always ask me, hey, what's your attendance policy? My attendance policy is simple. Be a good economist. Think about the opportunity cost. If coming to class is the absolute best use of your time, then quite obviously you should do what is the best use of your time and come to class. If coming to class is not a good use of your time, then you should not go to class. And I'm probably the only professor you'll ever hear say that. And I used to have very strict attendance policies, and then one day I realized that the attendance policy runs counter to what I'm actually trying to teach you in the classroom. So I changed the attendance policy. Let me be crystal clear on something. Did I just say you don't have to come to class? No, I didn't say that. I said you have to be a good economist and choose the best alternative. And I also said that the choice you don't choose, there's a cost to that, an opportunity cost. Let me be real specific. If you don't come to class, if you don't watch the online videos, if you don't take the online quizzes, if you don't do the work in the class, you will fail the class. And if you fail the class, it's going to be simply because you chose to do something besides the classwork. That's how this works. This is how every class you've ever taken works. Yeah, but you know that because most of you are sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and you've been playing this game long enough to understand how it works. What I'm saying is that you're an adult and you get to make your own choices, and you need to make the choice that gives you the best outcome and understand there's a cost to that. So if you skip class and as a result you fail the class, well, that's just the cost that you paid. Can you miss class? Sure you can. You can do anything you want. You're a grown-up. But what happens if you miss class? You pay the opportunity cost. And so when a student doesn't come to class and I put an F in the online grade book at the end of the semester, I don't bat an eye. It doesn't hurt my feelings a bit, because in my mind I say to myself, this student had something else more important they had to do besides pass my class, and they did that thing. And I only hope that it was worth the cost. Same thing goes for buying the textbook. A student always asks, do I need to buy the textbook? Well, that depends. What's the value of the next best alternative? I try very hard to find an inexpensive textbook alternative for you. Every economics book says the exact same thing. So I just basically found the one that said everything it needed to say that was the cheapest. All right, I took the time to find an inexpensive book for you. I'm told you can rent it or buy it used very, very cheaply relative to other textbooks. That's an important thing to remember. Things are only expensive or cheap relative to other things. Prices are relative. It's not that this thing is cheap and that thing is expensive. It's that this thing has a lower price than that thing. And that's why this thing is considered cheap, and this thing has a higher price, and that's why it's considered cheap. It's the relative price that matters. So I try to find an inexpensive book. Should you spend your money on it? Well, that just depends. Are you the kind of student who buys the inexpensive book, throws it in the trunk of your car, and never looks at it? Well, you just pissed away some money if you did that, and that would be suboptimal. That's not a good use of your resource. So if you know you're the kind of student who never reads the book, I'm not going to force you to read the book. I'm not going to force you to buy it. Your money, do what you want. But what you've got to ask yourself is, by failing to have the book on hand, so I have one more resource, is that going to cause me to fail the class? What is the opportunity cost? What is the ultimate cost of not having the book? I estimate that the book is worth a letter grade. So let's say you could buy rent the book for 50 bucks. Okay. Would you, if you had an unethical professor who would take a bribe, would you pay 50 bucks for a 1 letter grade boost? Well, I'm ethical. I won't take bribes. If you think you need a letter grade boost, buy the book and then use the book. Now, don't read the book, because if you read an economics textbook, it's just going to put you to sleep. Use the book as a reference. Use the book to look up terms. Use the book to look up explanations. Use the book to look at the charts and the figures and the graphs and the words in bold and know the definitions of those words. That's actually how you use a textbook. Textbooks are very poor reading. There's a huge problem in the textbook world, and the problem is, well, it relates to economics. It boils down to this: who is the customer of a textbook? You think it's you, but it's not. Textbooks aren't written for you, because you don't assign the book to a classroom full of students. I do. So textbooks are written so that they're technically accurate and contain all the information that the professor wants you to know. And so they're written for me to read when I review the book to decide if I want to use the book in my class. And most textbooks absolutely suck, and that's the reason why, because you as the student are not the intended audience. You are considered to be a captive audience that's going to be forced to buy the book by someone like me. Am I going to force you to buy the book? Nope. But there's an opportunity cost if you don't buy the book, and that results in a lower grade. It doesn't bother me a bit. I'll just look at your grade when I'm putting it in the grade book online and say, this student maybe could have made an A, but they had some other priority, so they didn't buy the book, and as a result, they made a B. Hopefully, the economics lesson is what's sticking in your mind, and that lesson is there's always an alternative choice, and there's always an opportunity cost, because there's always an alternative choice. Economics is all about scarcity. Scarcity is the reason why we have economics, why we study economics. It is the science of how scarce resources are allocated. That is a good textbook definition of economics. It's the science of how scarce resources are allocated. Oh, what do I mean by that? Well, consider your time. Your time is a scarce resource. You can only be one place at a time. Right? You're watching this video right now, and maybe you have something else going on and you're distracted, but the reality is you're doing one thing right now. Can't do two things at once. Can't be two places at once. Can't be at your job and in the classroom at the exact same time. All right, you have scarce resources and you have to allocate them. You take an economics class so you can learn how people allocate resources. That is what we do. So don't forget about opportunity cost. They may be the most important type of cost. And don't forget that economics is the science of how scarce resources are allocated. That's your economics definition. And there you go, in about, I don't know, less than 12 minutes, you've got your first intro to economics. What I would like for you to do now, your task is to log into D2L, go to the content section, go to Module 1, and start watching videos. And after you've watched several videos in Module 1, you'll go to the quizzes section in D2L, and you'll start taking quizzes. The way the quizzes work is you get 5 attempts to pass a quiz. After your 5th attempt, you can't try anymore. And D2L is going to take the highest grade on those 5 attempts and count that as your quiz score. There's a total of 16 quizzes. I drop your lowest. So there's 15 total quizzes. Each quiz is worth 1% of your final grade. So think about your quizzes as 1 point each, and there's 15 of them. Now, 15 points could be a difference between 1 or 2 letter grades. And what I notice as I review grades midway through the semester, at the end of the semester, the students who are doing poorly in the class are the students who don't take the time to do the quizzes. There is a direct correlation between your quiz attempts and your grade. The students who don't make any attempts on the quizzes universally fail the exams. Why is that? Because I had this massive question database that I built up over the years, and I pulled the exam questions almost word for word from the quizzes. The quizzes exist solely as a tool to help you prepare for the exams. They're due at the end of the semester. Why? Why is that? Because inside D2L, if I want to change the deadlines for quizzes, I have to go in and change each individual deadline. It takes about 10 clicks of the mouse to get that done. And it burns about a half an hour to an hour of my time every semester changing the deadlines for 16 quizzes in just this class alone. I did an opportunity cost calculation and I set them up with no deadline because I ain't got time to click on all these quizzes every semester. The trap with that is students see that the deadline isn't until the end and they don't do them and don't realize that they're practice for the exams. And so at exam 1, if you haven't taken the quizzes for modules 1 and 2, I believe, don't expect to do well on exam 1. It's just an opportunity cost thing. If you haven't put in the work to learn the material, you're not going to do well on the test. If you work the quiz, you'll do well on the test. Now you can go back afterwards and work the quiz and bring your quiz grade up, but your test grade's going to suck. So whatever you want to do, your time, you get to allocate it the way you see fit. We're going to have 3 exams. There is no final exam. There's just 3 regular exams, and they're spaced out throughout the course of the semester. On the surface, they don't look to be spaced out evenly. Exam 1 covers modules 1 and 2. Exam 2 covers modules, I think, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And they're spaced out that way because that's just kind of how the content best flows. And exam 3 covers modules 7 through 12, but those modules are just more compact and shorter. They're almost like individual topics as opposed to, big, broad, sweeping ideas that we get in the earlier modules. So it looks a little bit off balance, but it's not as off balance as it first appears. Each exam is worth 25% of your course grade. So think of each exam as 25 points. So the quizzes are worth 15 points. Total exams are worth 75. 75 plus 15 is 90. What's the rest of your grade? There's a project called the MT Engage assignment that we will give you some further details after the second exam. So between now and the second exam, don't even worry about that. We'll have plenty of time to talk about the MT Engage assignment a little bit later on in the semester. So don't stress about that. That's just where your grades come from. So go ahead and jump out of this video and head over to the content section and begin going through the content. There'll be a lot of online videos I'm going to ask you to watch. As you're watching those online videos, the videos will pause and hit you with a quiz. Ignore those quizzes. They don't count for anything. Take them if they help you learn the material. You have to enter an email at the beginning in order to take the quiz. You can just skip the email. The quizzes that are embedded in the videos, I don't use them for anything. So if you don't take them, it's no big deal. I am Dr. Gardner. Thank you for taking Ag Econ this semester. Hope to see you face-to-face in the classroom next week. Y'all stay safe out there.